What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on some audio I ran across, right? And this was George Lynch telling. He told a story about Michael Jordan and how once Michael Jordan had made. He left North Carolina and went to the Chicago Bulls. And during the off season, the North Carolina players, and then like the guys who graduated and went to the pros, and even the college players, just come back to North Carolina and just play basketball, right? So George Lynch told a story about how Michael Jordan came back and and beat them. But I'm gonna let George Lynch. I'm gonna let this audio play so you can hear what George Lynch had to say about Michael Jordan and how he beat these college players. Man, it was funny.
You've seen in these pickup games.
So Mike would always come back and he would pick only walk-ons. And that's who got to play with Mike. All walk-ons and JV players.
Y'all just sitting there losing.
And we losing every game. We beat Mike one game, and we might have played 7. We beat him the first game, and King Rice was talking shit.
He always talks shit.
He was talking shit to Mike. Mike said, all right, the next 7 games, we didn't get close to beat him. And he had walk-ons, man. And then he didn't, so the one game we beat him.
He have a PTSD.
Then when I see Mike today, I said, man, you still owe me dinner. So the rule at Carolina was, if you beat the pros, they take you to dinner. They still have that?
No, we did not have that. That's some, hey, Ray, that's some bullshit right there, man.
He said, all right, I'll meet y'all at, it's called the Rat Scaler. We sitting in the Rat Scaler. He don't show up.
Damn.
Didn't even pay for our dinner.
What are you seeing?
That is crazy, man, for Mike to come back and play with walk-ons and JV ball players and beat them 6 out of 7 games. I mean, and to beat the guys who started for North Carolina, it was a very North Carolina had a strong program. So around the time that George Lynch was there, I do remember the guard King Rice. I'm trying to think of now. This was before like Jerry Stackhouse. This was before Rasheed Wallace number. I think JR, what's the guy name? What's his name? JR Ryder or Richie? I don't know. The guy named JR was there. I know it wasn't JR Ryder. But yeah, man, North Carolina always had some strong teams, right? And Mike came back, picked up walk-ons and JV ball players and beat these guys 6 out of 7 games. And so King Rice had a nerve to talk stuff to Mike when they beat him. So I'm thinking, if I'm Mike and I beat y'all 6 out of 7 games and they wasn't even close, you heard him. You heard George Lynch. He said the games wasn't even close. So if I'm Mike, I got walk-ons and JV ball players on my team, and I beat North Carolina's best, North Carolina's starters, guys who are going to be most likely in the league themselves. I would have stood you up too. I wouldn't have came to to pay for no dinner. That's crazy. And so George Lynch said Mike owe him dinner. I think y'all owe Mike dinner. Mike beat y'all 6 times, and the games were not even close. That's crazy. I mean, people really don't really get how much of a fanatic, how great Mike was, man. And I use the word fanatic because Mike was on a different level when it came to like his dedication to the sport. When you choosing teams, right? You want to you want to be on a team that's competitive. You go back to your college or your school, and everybody is there. So most of the time, I'm sure in most gyms, they try to make the team fair and balanced. And so Mike thought that it was fair and balanced for him to play with walk-ons and guys who are on junior varsity, the junior varsity guys. That's, to Mike, that was fair and balanced. And I don't know, even then, maybe that, if Mike beat 6 out of 7 times, maybe that wasn't even fair and balanced. They should have had Mike playing with maybe only had 4 players on their team or something crazy, man, because that's crazy for a guy. How good do you have to beat up? When George Lynch was at North Carolina, Dean Smith was still there. So that the talent at North Carolina was up to, it was like they was always ranked. North Carolina was always ranked at least in the top 5, top 10 while Dean Smith was there, especially around that time, in the in the 80s and up until probably the early 90s or so. Yeah, they was, North Carolina was always in the thick of things. So now you have Mike coming back on the campus and just abusing the North Carolina, the North Carolina team, man. That's just crazy. That's, and you know what? And the thing about these Michael Jordan stories, you hear these stories all the time, not just from, anybody that played at that school and anybody who talk about Michael Jordan, it's just, you hear these kind of stories from them. How Mike was just so competitive, and he demonstrated it in so many different ways, and just to prove to people without even saying that he the best. Mike, when somebody take walk-ons on their team and go up against, the dudes who played on nationally ranked college teams, and he still beat them, what he is telling you is that he is, he the best ball player, and not only in this gym, but the best ball player in the NBA and the best basketball player in the world. For somebody play with those guys, some walk-ons, and still beat, it's just crazy. But can you imagine too being a walk-on and playing against, playing with Michael Jordan like that? That probably was a lot of pressure there too, because Mike definitely was going to draw the double team. So if Mike could beat the double team, but still, if Mike hits you for open shot, you gotta make that shot. You gotta make that shot, or Mike going to be pissed. He's going to be pissed, man. So I only wish though I had an opportunity to watch some of those games, man. Because that's all that you hear a lot about, how Michael Jordan went back to North Carolina during the off season and just dominated, And so this guy Mike just dominated everywhere he went. And George Lynch, just told another story, man. I appreciate that story. Yeah, man, Mike just was dominant across the board. So that's my take on it, though. Another great story about Mike Jordan. Make sure to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, right? And with that being said, I'll check you all out in the next video. Peace.